Hey everyone, it's Adam here with another video. Welcome. If you've been following my channel for a while, welcome back. And if you're new, hello. I've been gone a lot of the summer this year. I've been up in the Canadian Arctic, up in the Northwest Passage area. And I thought I would share this video with you. If you're curious about the Northwest Passage, about going there someday, if you're just interested in it, there's a million reasons why you could be interested in the Northwest Passage. It's generally just a remote area that most people don't get to. And just a bit about my background, I've spent the last couple of summers up there traveling the area on expedition cruises. I work on expedition cruises. So the footage you're going to see and the footage you're seeing of on this video is from my time working. Now keep in mind, I'm like getting the best footage and video and photos I can as I'm working. So keep in mind, this isn't like crazy amazing footage, a lot of it, but it's the best I've got to show you. And just a bit of background on the Northwest Passage if you don't know what it is traditionally the sea route that joins the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean via the Canadian Arctic. Many explorers in recent history tried to find a route, in order to expand trade, and many of them died. There's a lot of stories and expeditions that have gone wrong. Ships getting trapped in the ice, people resorting to, cannibalism and stuff like that just to stay alive, eating their dogs, you name it. It's got a pretty harrowing tale to tell in recent history of people trying to find it. The Franklin expedition is probably one of the most famous stories from up there. It wasn't until Amundsen, the explorer that found it in 1903 to 1906, actually made the transit successfully from one end to the other, but many died before him. And of course, it's traditionally the home of the Inuit people who have been there for thousands of years and who lived on the abundant sea life and land mammals up there. And when you're up in those regions, you see tons of archaeology from these early people who are still there. So it's not just about the explorers, it's also about thousands of years of human history up there. So here's a random string of places that I've been, mostly this year. And I just want to give you a highlight. There's a lot more to cover, but we're going to just dive into it. So, first stop on the map you're seeing is Port Epworth. So Port Epworth is a tiny spot on the Mackenzie River on the Canadian mainland of the Arctic, still not up in the islands. And it's significant because there's a lot of stromatolites there. And if you don't know what a stromatolite is, well, join the club. Neither did I until I started going here. But basically, they're 3.5 billion years old. They're some of the oldest things on the planet, and they were responsible for oxygenating the atmosphere, ultimately creating life. A geologist would do a much better job at explaining it, but I was bear guarding there, and I got to stand amongst these things for quite a few hours, and it was just an incredible, breathtaking formation to look at. So stromatolites at Port Epworth is a huge highlight, and one that sticks in my mind when I think back to being there. The next stop is a place called Cambridge Bay. So there are some places that have people in the Northwest Passage. Cambridge Bay is known as the gateway to the Northwest Passage. It's a very small place, like many places up in the Canadian North. They're fly-in only access, or you can take your boat to them, but otherwise they completely depend on ships and planes for all their supplies. So Cambridge Bay, very cool place, an Inuit cultural hub. I have some footage here of me actually walking around town, which I'm just gonna let roll, and you can see it for yourself. Hey everybody, so I'm in Cambridge Bay. You can see behind me, this is kind of the lay of the land here. Simple places up here. Everyone's got their Canadian Tire in their backyard. Everybody keeps things for parts. Everything's built on stilts because of permafrost, I don't want to get up into showing people's individual houses because that's just rude. You don't want to do that, but yeah, it's the lay of the land. Everyone drives ATVs and let it pass. And snowmobiles, ATVs and snowmobiles. There's very few actual trucks or cars around, although there are some, but they're not as practical. It's all about being practical up in these areas. So Cambridge Bay, here's what you get up here, far, far north. So there are several places like Cambridge Bay in the Arctic. small places with Inuit people. And, you know, usually we're treated to a cultural presentation there, which I'm going to show you in a second. But the people there are very friendly and easy to get along with. So I just wanted to mention that so you get a sense of what they're like. And I'm going to show you a bit of a cultural presentation that we were treated to recently. This one's from Pond Inlet. Okay, the Bellow Strait. This one's really interesting. It was a highlight for us on the recent expedition. It's a super narrow passage up in the Northwest Passage that is a major linkage between the Gulf of Boothia and the Franklin Strait. So a lot of research for history has taken place here. Franklin's final resting place is not too far from here. It's a very cool spot. The footage you're seeing is, you know, us actually going through the Bellow Strait. It's amazing that a ship can actually get through, and a real treat, you know, once you're on the water enough to see something like this. Okay, on to some wildlife stories. So the next spot we were at was very close by. I think it's called Strzelecki or Strzelecki, something like that. It was our first time landing there. So what we do is we normally take a Zodiac in as a scout boat to make sure there's no bears in the area and make sure it's safe. Then we could bring passengers out there for hikes. So we did this in Strzelecki, and everything was clear. And we also got treated to an awesome display of muskox. There was probably a dozen muskox in the hills, and it was a beautiful sight to see. And we all got treated to them. Every passenger pretty much got to see them. Shortly after that, though, we all got on a hike, and the fog started to roll in, and we ran into a polar bear. Not the most fun when you're hiking. We've seen lots of polar bears before. From a safe distance, they're okay, but they are predatory animals, and they will go after you to eat you without even thinking about it. So the footage you're going to see now is from that hike. This is actually a video from one of the passengers. It wasn't my video, but the polar bear approaches, and as you can see, the bear guard fired off a flare. It's the right thing to do because in the fog, a gunshot would echo too much. It would send the bear running who knows where. So the flare scared the bear off and everything was cool. We very swiftly got out of that place because the fog was rolling in, and you don't want to be on hikes in polar bear country in the fog. But Strzelecki was a really beautiful spot and a real highlight for me, just seeing the muskox. And after all was said and done, it was, I guess, pretty cool to see the bear too. Okay, Beachy Island. The Northwest Passage talk wouldn't be complete without talking about Beachy Island. Beachy Island is a massive pilgrimage spot for people in the modern day because this is where the Franklin expedition spent their first winter. 3 of the expedition members are buried here. A lot of research has been carried out on this site about the Franklin expedition. The island itself is a very barren place. You couldn't have picked a worse spot to spend a winter. I mean, there's no break from the wind, there's no game. We did see a cute little rabbit there. I mean, by little rabbit, I mean huge. The Arctic hares are quite large. But I mean, it's a barren place. There's no life there. And this is where they spent a winter. You can see the old post that they built. And the expedition team members built a massive cairn way up in the hills. And I was lucky enough to make a hike up there with the group, and we got to visit the cairn. So here's some images of that you're seeing. Very significantly historical spot. Hard to get to, of course. So Beachy Island, a very cool place to check out when the weather's good, of course. And it's almost never good at Beachy Island. Powell Inlet, another pretty place. A new spot for us. In recent years, we've been going there, and it's just a stunning place. Natural beauty. We usually see polar bears there from a safe distance. And anyways, I made a vlog of that spot, so I'll let that play now so you can check it out. Today was an awesome landing at Powell Inlet. It's a landing that we just kind of checked out for the first time last year, and it's proven to be a beautiful spot. It's easy to land there, and the Zodiacs and the ship as well. It's a fjord that goes up into the very wild Devon Island, up in the high Canadian Arctic, and it's got a giant ice cap on it. It's full of, wildlife. We saw today polar bear and a bunch of walrus hanging around. So, you know, what a place. And it's surreal. The landscapes are incredible. There's all these washouts, these kind of silty washouts, gravelly washouts at the base of the cliffs that go into the water, and the patterns it makes are just incredible. And there's a nice fresh dusting of snow up top there as well on the mountaintops, or hilltops, I guess, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, just a beautiful day. I was bear guarding today, so again, I didn't take a ton of photos, but I was looking for bears. We did find one. We monitored it from across the water, and it was no threat to us today. So we had a peaceful landing, and people were able to check out the walrus and view the bear from a long ways off. So that was good. And anyways, it was a great day. So the rest of the day is full of programming. People are doing lectures on explorers on the Northwest Passage and Arctic wildlife, and then followed by a cool film we're going to watch tonight. So life is good on board. I will catch you next time. Okay, Grise Fjord, the most northerly community in North America. This place is up there. It's on the southern tip of Ellesmere Island. And to get there is a real treat because the conditions are usually too rough. There's usually too much sea ice. It's hard to get there, even in a huge ship that I was on. Well, by huge, I mean about 200 passengers, by the way. But anyways, it's a difficult place to get to, and we got lucky enough to get in there. We didn't spend very long because the conditions changed real quick, and we had to get right out of there. But we did make it there, and what you're seeing now is some shots around town. These places are usually inhabited mostly by Inuit people. This is not their traditional place. Grise Fjord, as well as a couple other spots like Resolute, these are not their traditional places. There's no game here. They're barren rock. So what are they doing here? Well, the story is, as with Grise Fjord and a couple other spots up here, is that in order to assert sovereignty in the Arctic, we had to put people there. Well, Canada had to put people there. So they took Inuit people from northern Quebec and put them across the Arctic in all these small habitations. So Grise Fjord is about 150 people that live here. They mostly live off of the sea, hunting, fishing. They depend on supplies that come in by boat. It's up there, a real cool place to see. I'm glad I got up there to see it. I wish we could have stayed longer. I wish I had more footage to show you, but just to give you a taste, that's what it's like. And that brings us to Greenland. So once we left Grise Fjord this year, we crossed Baffin Bay, the big body of water that separates Canada and Greenland, and we ended up in Greenland. Hit a couple storms along the way, but we avoided them by going north beyond them, and then we came back down along the coast. So I actually made a vlog on the ship. I'll let you watch that first, and then I'll get into more Greenland stuff. Well into the Northwest Passage now. We are heading towards Disco Island. We were just at a place called Tisusiak. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. I'm kind of spur of the moment. As you know, I'm working, so I didn't check the name of the place before I did this video. But it's a gorgeous sunset out here, lots of icebergs around. When you get into this part of the Arctic, the ice becomes very heavy because most of the icebergs in the world come from Greenland, which is where we are, right? So we're cruising along the west coast of Greenland. It's absolutely stunning, and seeing amazing icebergs, amazing landscapes. And tomorrow we're heading to Disco Island. I haven't done a video update in a while because work gets kind of crazy. But anyways, just wanted to give a little video update on my trip here. We're getting into more habitated areas now. We've been in the wilderness for like 2 weeks. So now we're getting into the towns of slowly Sisimiut, Ilulissat in Greenland. And we're also going to be heading up to Disco Island tomorrow, which should be a really cool landing. Anyways, enjoy the sunset. It's beautiful out here. So there are many places in Greenland that I could do, I could talk about, but I just want to generally talk about Greenland. It's a gorgeous place. I mean, there's endless icebergs, endless gorgeous coastline, like mountains, there's lush green everywhere. It's a really stunning, visually a stunning place. There's several towns. It's far more busy than the Canadian side, but I mean, it's still not that busy. The population in Greenland is just over 50,000 people, but Sisimiut, Ilulissat are some of the highlight in bigger towns. A lot of the pictures you're seeing now are from Ilulissat. It's a real prize to get there, It's home to the Ilulissat Ice Fjord, which is basically a fjord full of icebergs. So just picture a river of icebergs, and all these icebergs are flowing out to the ocean. They're calving off of the Greenland ice cap, and they're flowing out to sea. And then once they hit sea, they flow all over the world. So this is a birthplace of the world's, or most of the world's, icebergs. And they flow all the way down to Newfoundland and beyond. Like, they just flow forever. And when you're here, there's so many icebergs just along the shore because you're right by the ice fjord. So Ilulissat is one of my favorite spots. It's a real highlight. I could go on and on and on about how beautiful Greenland is. Another home of a lot of Inuit people today and historically, of course. It is now owned by the Kingdom of Denmark. So when you actually get into town, it's very European feel. It feels like you're in Denmark, sort of. It's its own sort of culture out there. Yeah, Greenland is just a gorgeous place and one of my favorite areas to explore along the Northwest Passage. All right, well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. I'm back in action now. I just finished my season, so I'll be doing more videos again, getting back into the groove here. And thanks as always for watching. I will see you next time. Cheers.